Welcome to episode 218 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast.
Again.
I did. I had one.
I didn't even notice till you pointed it out, which says something about
Every
me.
time
Like,
I type
don't pay
in-
attention to you.
Every
but
time I type in the stuff for this podcast, I'm 100 episodes off. It's episode 218 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast.
I'll get a sticky note and I'll just stick it on your computer. So every week we'll just change.
Yeah, the problem is
sticky note.
I make it from my phone.
Oh,
Sticky note won't work on my phone.
No.
It'll fall off.
I can't help you there.
Yeah. So this is 218. Thanks everybody for tuning in. You want to get sponsor stuff out of the way?
We can. Sorry, I was taking a nap because it's summer and I hibernate during the summer.
Yeah, no,
James had to wake me up.
I love to hibernate, but today I actually had to go do a teacher workshop, which I was not excited about.
Yeah, I got to do a program with Megan this morning. We had almost 70 people at that program this morning for her.
So our friend Megan that we've had on, because she does the
Lone Star State.
She does the Lone Star State reptile outreach program and stuff.
It was a great program.
Small kids.
It ranged from toddlers up to the grandparents that brought them. The average age kid was probably 11 to 12.
Was it like a library?
No, it was actually at Liverpool City Hall.
Oh, that's cool.
The City Hall puts on this program, and it's their Tuesday programs, and they're free programs. And every Tuesday they have a different organization come out and do a program. It's not Wildlife and Fisheries.
Texas Parks and Wildlife.
That would be it. Thank you. I always get them wrong. They're coming out in 2 weeks. Apparently, they're bringing alligators. And the lady was like, "Yeah, we have to put them outside under the pavilion with fans because we get way too many people." It was standing room only in that little room, and there were people standing in the hallway to peek around the corner and look at what she was doing too.
That's cool.
It was awesome. I felt kind of like her bodyguard because I was standing at one of the doors that was right next to all the stuff that you came in from the parking lot.
How many animals did she bring?
She brought 5 snakes and then one of her redfoot tortoises. This was his first time coming out to a program. After the first 5 minutes of people in line coming by, he was fine.
Her redfoot's still small though, right? Mm-hmm. Smaller than ours?
It's bigger than Mary.
Oh, bigger than ours?
Mm-hmm. But after the first 5 minutes in line, it stayed out of the shell the whole time. And so that was really cool. But they had some really great questions. A lot of the adults were real interested in all of the educational points that she has. But yeah, it was a really great program.
Yeah, no, I sat through a teacher workshop and for half the day the air wasn't on.
Yeah, that does suck. I'm really sorry about that.
Yeah, it's warm outside in case anybody was wondering.
And then her and I went to lunch. I hung out with people and talked about not work stuff.
No, I hung out with teachers and we all talked about how we didn't want to be there.
Although my coworker did text me about test scores at 8:00 this morning. And I was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, why are you texting me this at 8:00? She's like, "Why are you responding? You don't really sleep till 10. And I'm like, "I had an obligation. I'm awake and functioning today."
All right, let's get.
All right. So Lil's Shop of Horrors operates a commercial feeder breeder facility based out of San Antonio, Texas. And they specialize in rats, mice, dubia roaches, Madagascar hissing cockroaches, and more. As feeder breeders, they focus on the nutritional needs of the animals that consume them. Nationwide shipping is available on live insects. For frozen rodent shipments, reach out to check if it's available in your area. If you're looking to place an order, feel free to contact them through any of their social media pages at Lil's Shop of Horrors or email them directly for any inquiries.
Yeah, go check out Lewis. Get you some rodents, get you some insects. He's got dubia roaches. He can get you set up. Also, Herp's Reptile Shows. We've got the big one coming up this weekend in Conroe. I will be there Saturday and Sunday. Katie may not be there at all. Who knows?
Yeah, we're working on it.
But I will be there with our friend Hayden. She's going to fill in for Katie. We'll do some. She's going to fill in for Katie. We're going to do some interviews there.
She texted me the other night about that, actually.
She texted me too.
Did she?
She's like, "So what time are we doing this? What time?" I was like, "It's not that organized."
So you were asking then. So she texted me and she goes, "Okay, so I need you to tell me what kind of things I need to yell at James about." And I was like, "What did he do now?" And she just laughed at my question. She was like, "No, on the podcast." And I was like, "Oh, I totally thought he had trolled somebody online." And you were telling me because it offended you.
No, she was like, "What time are we interviewing? What time are we doing this?" Is like, whoa. I don't have any of that planned out. It all just kind of happens when it happens.
She was like, "What am I beating him up for this week?" Because that's always your immediate reaction. And it's hilarious that I'm like, I don't know that anybody else can do this. This is 20 years of being together.
So come on out to the Conroe, Texas show. That is June 8th, June 9th. That's this weekend. If you missed that one, you can go to Longview, Texas, June 22nd, June 23rd, over to Slidell, Louisiana, July 20th, July 21st, up to Sulphur, Louisiana, or over to Sulphur, Louisiana, which used to be the Lake Charles show, July 27th, 28th, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, August 3rd, August 4th, down to Corpus Christi, Texas, August 10th and 11th, then over to Bryan College Station, August 17th, 18th, and then back over to Baton Rouge, August 24th and 25th. So come to one of those herp shows, get all your supplies, see all our friends that we talk about on here, say hi to them. Speaking of our friends, the Reddies, which I'm throwing out there just because I got to talk about their feeder fuel. If you need food for your feeder insects, check out Reddy's Rainforest. Their feeder fuel is the best. I'm telling you, I've never seen cockroaches actually care what I feed them, but they go crazy when I put this stuff in there. So
funny.
So go check out Reddy's Rainforest. Check out our Patreon. If you want to join our Patreon, I won't stop you.
$3. I don't yell at him as much.
$2-3 a month. Join.
How much this free podcast costs us?
It's free for everybody else.
It is free for everybody else, and I'm glad they love it.
But go join that for us. Also, our Discord. Go check out our Facebook. I left the link to our Discord on there. I may have to update at some point.
I feel so bad because I'm not on there.
You really gotta join.
But I hear your phone going off so much that I'm glad I'm not on there.
Yesterday we were talking about it. So our friend Jack that lives in the Netherlands, who's coming to visit later this year, we were talking about fishing, and he's talking about coming over here and fishing. So so talk about everything, but it is constantly busy.
Somebody actually sent you something for me though, and you showed it to me.
Yeah, they did.
Because you were like, you're not on there, so here, let me show you this.
So go join our Discord, the Reptile Gumbo podcast Discord. There's constantly people in there talking about anything. So come hang out with us. Am I missing anything? We're good. Anything else going on? Oh, for those that want an update, my snake's still pregnant. She's still pregnant.
I was like, what are we updating on? Although I have my closet back until my box turtle comes.
I did move the snake. I moved a snake out of our closet. So she moved out of quarantine. But anyway, my pregnant snake still pregnant. See anal side exotics over there. That's what it says.
Yeah, I know.
I posted a picture of a bowfin. We're talking about fish, and a bowfin is my favorite fish to catch.
But we didn't get one though.
No, she saw it. It was a picture of me holding one in the kayak that I'd caught.
Oh, that's an old picture.
Well, yeah, but it's still fun to catch.
It is. We did see them at Bass Pro Shops when we went the other day.
They're an awesome fish. They're an ancient fish. They're like a lobed fish. They don't have. They're a very ancient one. They have a mouthful of teeth and they breathe air.
Ooh, maybe on Thursday, since you don't have a workshop, we can go down to Sea Center in Lake Jackson because it's free and it's inside. So it's not ridiculously hot.
All four inside. I had a coworker.
The humidity was oppressive.
I had a coworker today while we were thinking, who wants to go to the zoo on Friday? And I was like, it's 103,000 degrees outside. I'm not even going
to renew my membership until September. I'm paying for months that I'm not going to use it.
I'm not going out. I'm not going to the zoo right now. It's not happening. It's not pleasant. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd spend the entire time in the reptile building where it's air conditioned, but I'd be wasting not seeing the rest of the zoo. Oh, cool. They caught a bowfin up there. There's such a cool fish, and people don't like bowfin.
It says, I never caught one up here.
Oh, never caught. Yeah, I think they're just a southern one. I think that far. Look, reading's hard. It's the summer. It's the summer, and I did not want to be at our thing today.
I know you didn't.
They always start our teacher things with these like STEM challenges where we have to build
Teachers
something.
Are not off during the summer, just FYI.
Well, we have to build something, and today we had to build a vehicle that you could blow, and then we had to race them.
Did your team win, but then get gypped out of the win again like last
So
year?
here's the thing. We had like 20 minutes to do it, and I quit probably about 10 times because I was not feeling. Normally I'm very competitive. I'm like, we're gonna win this, and I just was not. I was like, I don't care. So I'm like, I'm half-assed putting this thing together, and when we got done, I mean, it had wheels. The wheels were made out of lifesavers. The frame was made out of popsicle sticks and an index card for our sale, and we had to go race everybody, and we came in second,
like legitimately
behind someone. A team that didn't put wheels. It was just a sail with a base, and they blew it. I mean, it doesn't count. The whole thing was to make it like a vehicle. So I think
they made a boat.
Yeah, kinda.
A sailboat. Doesn't
not really,
wheels.
but not really.
That's the vehicle.
They made a sled.
No, you just don't want to be in second.
We put wheels on it.
I mean, that's cool, but it doesn't matter.
You know how
still follow the rules.
Do you know how hard it was to come up with an idea in 20 minutes to put axles on this thing? I had to put axles on it. We had to put wheels on them.
I didn't say I wasn't impressed.
We had the best vehicle. Even the chick in charge said, yeah, your design was the best. I know it was. And that was me half-assing it. That wasn't even me trying. Every time we have one of these, we get hosed. The one time we built a bridge that could have held, I don't know how much weight. She didn't tell us.
I did feel bad for you.
We lost that one. And I'm like, we had the best bridge and we still lost something. I don't know. Anyways, that's what we do in the summer. They make us go sit through
team building.
Just crap. None of us want to be there. None of us, as teachers, none of us want to be there. And we're not learning anything that's like going to change our lives drastically. Like elementary, I'll make because
we do. As long as I walk out the door having learned at least one thing, I don't feel like it's a waste of my time.
No. High school, it's we're checking boxes saying that we can say we went there. That's all it is. So, anyways,
next week. So,
yeah. So I have another teacher thing for 2 days next week.
You get to be home while I'm gone, but
I got 2 days next week also.
You get paid for those at least.
Yeah. Also, I'm realizing that our summers are shorter and shorter. You know, we go back like beginning of August.
We go back August 1st.
What the hell?
Yeah. We get the month of June and the month of July and the last week of May. So we get 9 weeks off for the summer. Unless
someone out there's going, well, we don't get any off time. Screw you. You don't hang out with 15 and 16-year-olds all day. I'm telling you right now.
I slept more in the first week of summer vacation than I think I have slept in the last 6 months.
Those of you that don't hang out with 15-year-olds for 8 hours a day, you'll understand why we take 2 months off in the middle of the year. It's annoying.
Yeah. I feel so much more like my normal self right now than I have since Christmas.
Wait till August.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to our guest. Tonight, I'm excited because this is a topic that I would definitely like to talk more about and we'll get to tonight. Go ahead and bring our guest. Our guest tonight is Brenda Bush from the Central Texas Tortoise Rescue. It's a mouthful. I got it all out. How's it going, Brenda?
Oh, it's good. Busy. And yes, summer, Texas, hot as yeah.
Yes. Yep, it is. It's, but I would rather take that over like 5 months of snow.
Oh God, yes.
I don't have to shovel sunlight out of my driveway.
Yeah.
And if it's hot, I can just go into the air conditioning.
Yep, we got air conditioning for a reason, my friend. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
It always shocks me, those people that live in states where they don't tend to have air conditioning and it's not a huge deal. I'm like, that's because you've never lived here. You have to have it.
Yep.
I don't know how people lived here 100 years ago without air conditioning.
It wasn't as hot for one thing. Temperatures have increased over the years. So
hey, global climate change is not a thing. My friend's uncle's friend's neighbor said that on Facebook, so it can't be a thing.
Oh my stars.
Although ask Oklahoma about all the tornadoes. So
in Texas about all the hurricanes and
I haven't even looked at that yet. I'm like, I know it's June 4th and I know that technically started on the 1st.
I'm severely worried about our hurricane season
in Louisiana still, and I'm like, okay, we need to sell it. Like,
okay, real quick.
Yeah, it needs to become someone else's problem before a hurricane hits it again.
I'm not excited about this season at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough. So tell us just a brief overview of the Central Texas Tortoise Rescue, and then we can get into some of the details, and we can get into the question we asked this week, which got a lot of answers to. But just give us your blanket statement about your organization.
Well, we are a rescue for tortoises and box turtles, and which basically means we take in pet tortoises and box turtles that need to be rehomed for various reasons. And we take care of them while they're here with us. If they come to us injured, of course, we do rehab and fix them all up before they get adopted out. And then we adopt them out. And we have become more and more popular, more and more well-known, apparently, and are getting tortoises from all over the U.S. So it's been a little bit crazy.
That is so exciting, though. Like
it is. It's cool.
It is, but it's not because you're in one of those situations where you would like to be able to go out of business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's one of those things where if you love tortoises, it's exciting because you get a whole bunch and you get the task of finding good homes for them. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you're like, man, people really need to educate themselves better before they get them as pets.
Well,
yes.
And the word the word rescue is a tricky one because a lot of people like to use it inappropriately. So like we had our friend Gina on from Heart of Gold. She's a rescue. She has always told us she's never gone looking for reptiles, right?
Right.
And I hate seeing someone on Facebook go, I run a rescue and and they give you a list of animals. I'm like, that's not how a rescue works. They are not actively looking for animals.
Yeah, you are a sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would gladly have no animals in a perfect world.
Right. Except for my own personal ones, because,
Yes.
you know, that's what happens when you run a rescue or you foster animals or whatever, is you fall in love with some and you keep them, and then you end up, you know, having to build more enclosures because you've filled yours with the ones you're keeping.
Well, and it's tricky with tortoises, as we'll talk about, just because it's not let me go grab a 10-gallon tank. Unfortunately, that's how people feel when they buy a baby sulcata. But I would imagine your number one tortoise that is surrendered to you are sulcatas.
Yes, absolutely. They outnumber everything else.
And I'd imagine you've seen every shell deformality that you could possibly think of.
Yes, like you would not believe. We've seen the worst pyramiding you could ever imagine. We've seen some with horrible metabolic bone disease. We've gotten some in that were on the verge of dying, that we were able to nurse back to health and get them healthy, although they will have permanent shell deformities from it. Everything. And we get them in perfectly good shape, beautiful tortoises that have been loved and taken care of and just need new homes. But yeah, we get some of the absolute worst. And then we have, you know, a few that come to us a little too sick for us to help. And we just have to be their compassionate end and let them die in our hands instead of their owners.
So just because it was recently brought to my attention that we have a handful of people who have recently started listening to the podcast that are not reptile people, which blows my mind. But so for anybody who's listening that may not know what it means, pyramiding is when their shells don't grow the correct way and they actually form like cones or pyramids on the top. And so a lot of times if you see a tortoise or a turtle, do turtles really do that?
I think it's messed up shells. They can.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly tortoises that do it. But so when you see a tortoise where their shell is not the typical.
Yes and no.
Right.
It depends on the species. There are some odd species out there that do not have a smooth shell. But in general, if you're seeing a tortoise as a pet, because most people can't afford the tortoises that have the other shells, they should be smooth. A lot of them, they should be smooth-ish. They should, if you were to see them in the wild, they're fairly round.
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah. There, like I said, there are a few species that have weird pokey shells, but it looks right. When you see
like that poor baby.
Oh yeah, if anybody watching, you can see
that's one of our.
Some of them. Go ahead.
That's one of our beautiful little sulcatas we've got right now, and he's got horrible pyramiding. And when he came to us, his shell was so soft that that we had to put braces in to keep it off of his head, because it was literally just resting on his head. We put braces around his neck to hold up the shell off of his head. So while it's hardening, it doesn't harden where he's closed out or in. So this way it stays open. He can move his head in and out as it's hardening. And it's actually, he's been with us since February. And it's already almost, his carapace, which is the top shell, is almost hardened. So we'll be able to take those braces out and put him up for adoption real soon.
That's great.
That's what I was going to ask, is about how long does it take for that shell to harden back up?
It varies, but if you have them outside, feeding them lots of calcium, soaking them every day, you know, even the big guys, this one's not huge, but this one is like about 12, 14 inches long. Yeah. And we soak him every day, and we make sure that he's eating well, which he is eating wonderfully now that he's loving it. And he gets to be outside every single day, all day long, because it's warm enough here to do that, obviously, and humid enough here to do that. So it's perfect for them. And as long as they're in that kind of environment, it can take usually 6 months or more. It depends on how soft it is when you get them. This guy is one of the softest we've gotten. And it's taken him, February, March, April, May, June, 4 months so far. So it'll probably take him 6 to 8 before he'll be really nice and hard all the way across the whole carapace, the top shell. The bottom shell will still be soft for a while. That could take up to a year. So,
yeah, they for me, I've never seen bad ones. I mean, they can get to where people refer to them like Legos, where like you get these really tall middle parts of the pyramid and then really sunken in edges. And it all stems from just, look, people think they're taking care of their animal, and not everybody that has a tortoise that is messed up is being cruel to it in their mind.
Right.
They're just not giving it what it needs, and they're not.
Right.
They need a lot. They've got to have UV lights, which free plug real quick for for our friends over at VivTech Products. If you go to VivTech Products to buy your LED UVB light bulbs, you save 15% off if you use code Gumbo22. So anybody out there,
That's cool.
all of our animals are using our VivTech LED bulbs, but they've got to have LED, which is why outside is really they've got to have UVB, which is why outside is the best if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, putting a baby sulcata outside is probably not the best idea right away. But yeah, it's the house of, we have one at back in Louisiana. I was telling you before we got on, we haven't brought all of our tortoises over. We have a couple of smaller redfoots here because we can keep them inside and do them a little better. But our big sulcatas are still back in Louisiana, and we have one named Notch. He when he came to us has a huge indent on one side and very bad pyramiding on top. But he's growing, and like you said earlier, it's not going to go away. Those issues are always going to be there, but they can get better.
Oh yeah, and his quality of life is significantly better than what it was. So
he's outside for one, so
that's the first thing. And you're right. The little ones, little tiny ones. I mean, you have to keep them inside at first. They've got to have very regulated humidity and temperature and all that for tiny sulcatas. But then once they're 5-6 inches long, they can easily go live outside. And of course they need to come in when it's cold because they can't handle cold, but they can go live outside when it's warm and then come in anytime it's cold. As long as you've got some kind of setup for that, then they'll be just fine.
And people, please stop letting your big tortoises free roam your house. Just stop that.
That's gross.
Yeah, it's. Just watch one go to the bathroom.
We have a box turtle in my classroom, and we will randomly, depending on, that's one of our Fun Friday activities, is she'll get to come out and explore everything, and the kids go around and they have we have pillows that they'll put in any corners under bookshelves so she can't get under there, and they sit around the room in their reading spots, and she gets to walk and explore the classroom. And one of the first things that I have to tell them, I'm like, look, she's a wild animal. She's not potty trained. She's going to go to the bathroom when she needs to go to the bathroom. If she goes to the bathroom, we're not freaking out. Miss Lewis is going to grab the cleaner. She's going to get the paper towel. She's going to clean it up. We're going to sanitize. We're going to move on. No big deal. And one of my kids actually said that. He was like, I saw this video online of these people with this gigantic tortoise just roaming their house. If Alice pees that much on the floor, what must the mess in their house be like? I'm gross. Like, this is why you don't let them roam around in your house.
It's weird. So a healthy sulcata poop isn't horrible.
No,
it's kind of firm. It's grassy, and it's when the urates and the liquid comes with it, and the noises, that come with it. That's when it gets pretty bad.
Oh yeah, like crazy. And honestly, again, they're not getting the sunlight. So, what are you doing? They need that sunlight to process their food appropriately and process calcium appropriately. And it's just not healthy for them, but it's also stinky and gross for you.
Yes. I will say, I've said before on here, the two reptiles that I have been the most impressed with the size of their poops, sulcatas and toads. Those are the two.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, toads, you'll always see people post online, what animal's been on my porch? And I'm like, that's a toad. They'll guess these huge animals like cats and dogs. I'm like, that's a toad. They poop like a quarter of their body.
Yep.
And then sulcatas. Like when my sulcatas were small, and the first time they went outside, they were really eating a ton of grass outside, and they're out in the sun, and their metabolism really picked up with all the heat, and they'd poop. I'm like, Jesus, that is massive out of that small animal.
And we call it elephant poop because it looks like it when it comes apart. It looks like it. They eat the same stuff and all that kind of stuff. So looks, smells, and is about the same size. Yes. So you take in how many tortoises do you think you take in? Or I guess you probably know. How many do you take in a year on average? It's increasing. I'm sure this year we are going to surpass anything we've had in the past. Our very first year, we probably didn't take in 60 tortoises or so. In the last 3 years, we've consistently taken in between 120 to 150.
Jeez.
And
every year.
Oh, wow. Every year. And this year we're going to surpass that. We took in recently just 15 from one place, a lady who had set herself up as a sanctuary and then could no longer sustain that and brought us 15 tortoises. They came originally from Nebraska, and she brought them here to Texas, and then didn't work out for her. Her life, things didn't work. So,
were they at least small species, or were they sulcatas?
Oh, they were all sulcatas. 15 sulcatas, and in a wide variety of sizes and a wide variety of states of health.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've had quite a few that have needed to go to the vet for multiple things. And with that big of a move, a lot of them will get respiratory infections anytime you do a major change, especially to their environment, moving them and to a different climate. They often
Nebraska
get
to Texas is a big change.
Yeah, so they often get upper respiratory infections when they come from that. So a lot of them ended up having to go to the doctor to get antibiotics to deal with, and give a 75-pound, 100-pound tortoise a shot in the leg. I dare you.
You try to pull that leg out of the shell. It is hard.
It ain't. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to catch them walking, and one person's got to sit on their shell and hold that leg while the other gets the shot, and that's the only way to do it. Yeah, it's a two people job for sure.
People underestimate the strength of those guys.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh man, when they pull that leg in, if you're not holding it out hard enough, it could break your finger. My husband got his finger. Yeah, my husband got his finger caught in there one time. First time we were doing shots, and he was like, every kind of word was coming out of there.
Oh, I imagine. Like, our big boy is probably pushing 100 pounds.
Yeah, and his finger was so red. It was like, yeah. And the one we were doing that to the very first time was a 80-pounder.
Oh.
And so we learned quick on him. Like, okay, now we know how to do this. And right now I'm giving shots to a little tiny one. I mean, she's like 5 pounds. She's easy. And I can do it all by myself. And I'm like, I'm so proud of myself. I can do these shots myself.
I love it.
But yeah.
So let's talk logistics, because to properly do it, obviously you're not housing things long term. So hopefully, so you don't have I assume full setups per tortoise, but they still take a lot of space. We're talking probably ranging sulcatas from babies, like you said, up to 80 to 100 pounds. And for someone that hasn't seen a 100-pound tortoise, it's big. Like it's so big.
They're 3 foot long when they're 100 pounds. They're 3 to 4 feet long and 3 feet wide. So they are a full-grown tortoise can get up to 4 feet long. Yeah, so
and your regular chain link fence isn't holding them back.
Yeah, and people always apply for adoption with us, and they send pictures of chain link, and I just start laughing. And I'm like, did you not read on the adoption page where that is not going to happen? Because that takes 2 days, and that's gone.
If that.
They will push that out, bend it out, and they're just totally gone.
I have found what I love to use are hog panels.
Yeah.
We'll cut down hog panels and then stake them into the ground.
Yeah.
And those hold them. But some of the common problems I have found with tortoises that people say, I haven't had. I don't have a digging issue. None of mine have ever been diggers. Mm-hmm. But I found that if you give them a good dark den to go into, digging doesn't tend to be an issue. I didn't have it when I worked at the zoo. We didn't have an issue because we had a place for them to go.
They have a freaking bunker at our house. They don't have a den.
That's true. It's been through 2 hurricanes, and it stood both hurricanes. It's made out of cinder block, and it is.
Yep.
The ice storm was the impressive.
Yeah, during the ice storm, I held 80 degrees inside of it.
Yeah, with like 6 inches of ice on top of it. It was crazy.
Wow. And it's cinder block.
It's concrete pavers on the bottom, then cinder block walls built up, and
but inside the cinder block,
and then we filled it with sand. So it's all the cinder block is filled with sand. And then inside there is a radiator heater with a fan blowing that air around, and then they also have a cane heat mat. Yep. And then there's also a chicken brooder heater on the other side that they can sit under.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's pitch black in there, and they'll put themselves to bed at like 5 p.m. and go in there.
Like they put themselves to bed in the evening. It's so funny.
I always, for the longest time, I thought one of the key things keeping a tortoise from digging, because I'd always heard this, was that you don't want them to see the other side. If they can see through a fence, they're going to try to go through a fence. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to our new house where it's chain link, but then we did the hog panels on the inside of the chain link, and it's like a 40-yard by 50-yard or 40 foot by 50 foot
40 by 50
pin that they're in, and they never try to push out. They never try to dig. I was like, yeah, that's not the issue. They just don't have anywhere to go feel safe. You got to give them somewhere to go feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I was a special ed teacher for years, so yes, I understand the workshops and I don't want to be here. Yeah, totally. So I'm a retired teacher. I definitely recommend the retirement. Retire, you'll love it. But absolutely. But I was a special ed teacher for years, and one of the things we always tell people about having a child with behavioral issues in the classroom of whatever kind is feed their need. If they are misbehaving, lots of times there's a need there that needs to be filled. Attention, something sensory, whatever. It's the same thing with animals as far as behaviors. So if you look at what the behavior is giving them, then, and you feed that need, if you provide it for them, then they don't do it. So my big sulcata, my personal one, he's only 55 pounds. Only 55 pounds. Yeah. And
He's a baby.
Right. He's a baby. He's only 10 years old, 55 pounds. But my big sulcata, we provided him with basically a tunnel, which is what they like in the wild. They'll build themselves a big old tunnel. But we provided him a culvert that, is used, a big plastic culvert that they use to run wires and cable and all that kind of stuff underground. Right. So we got a bunch of those on auction. We put one of those there. We put a board, piece of plastic at the end of it, so it doesn't have it has a solid end. It doesn't have to continue into the dirt,
Doesn't keep digging on.
Right. So he's got that solid back. He's got a nice big round thing that's 4 feet wide that he can get in and turn around and move around. And then it's got about 6 inches of mulch in the bottom of that. And holes drilled so that it won't hold water. And then 6 inches of mulch. And what they're seeking in the wild when they do those tunnels is they're trying to get out of the heat. So they need a cool place. They yes, like you said, they often want it dark as well. So they need a cool place. They prefer it darker, and they're wanting the humidity and they're wanting the moisture. And so that mulch in there, I wet it down in the morning. He kicks that mulch up on himself like mud. And he sits there happy as a clam all day long in the summer. Absolutely loves it.
So fun.
And then to add even more coolness and more humidity to it, I hang a mister that you can buy at any garden center, that's hooked to your water hose. I hang that mister over it, and it's on a timer. So it kicks on during the heat of the day and kicks off when it starts to cool off. And he sits there with that mist blowing in his face all day long, like a little spoiled man at the spa. He's just
ours like to play in a sprinkler.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'd have a sprinkler, the little back and forth sprinklers, or there's a specific name for that, but I can't think of what
Oscillating.
it is. Oscillating. There you go. And they loved it. It was so fun to watch them.
Yeah, Otis loves his sprinklers too. I frequently have to replace them because he'll sit on them, and if it was crappy made, it's gone. 55 pounds just went.
Yeah.
So back to some logistics. How are you set up for 100+ tortoises a year? Now, granted, not all of them are sulcatas and not all of them are 80 pounds plus, but I guess how many pins? How do you do that for all the different types? So what is your setup?
Well, my setup here, just north of Austin and Pflugerville, I have 19 enclosures. Otis is one of them. So my permanent residents, as I call them, also have their enclosures in that 19. So, but the rest of them are all guest enclosures, as we call them. But I have 14 locations across Texas. So I have 3 of us that can take 9 or more tortoises ourselves at our locations. That's the 3 main locations. And then the rest are foster homes. And those foster homes, some of them can take up to 3-4 animals. Some of them can only take the one, that's in their backyard, and they take a variety of sizes. So I have lots of help as far as where they can go. Right now we have 40 animals in our care. Not all of them are on the website for adoption. And those are not our personal animals. Those are just the ones that will eventually be available for adoption. Some people are like, well, you said you had 40, but I only see 30 on the website. And like, some of those are being rehabbed. We're always doing some kind of medical treatment on somebody. So some of them are being rehabbed, or some of them are on hold. Somebody's already approved for adoption for somebody, so they're on hold for that person to come pick them up, that kind of stuff. But we currently have 40 guest animals in our enclosures across the state, in all of our foster homes and everything. And I lose track, but yeah, I've got 13 here with me at home, variety of sizes, like you said. Finally adopted out my last hatchling yesterday. So glad. Hatchlings are a lot more work. I'm so glad to get, buy a hatchling. They're adorable, but thank you.
Once you can throw them outside in a pen and you just have like they can eat grass, you can throw them greens and some tortoise chow and all that. It's so much easier.
Yes, life is so much easier when they're bigger. So much. Yeah. Those little hatchlings, they're just work. They're cute, but they're just work.
And speaking of feeding all that's got to be crazy. Because I mean, people that have never been around sulcata, no matter what size it is, they are bottomless pits when it comes to food.
Yes. Yes, they
it goes
are.
in, comes out, and it's constant coming in and coming out.
Yes. So the pooper scooper is your friend. Let me tell you. But yeah, but we, because we insist on outdoor enclosures for all of ours, except for hatchlings, of course, like we talked about, then even my fosters, all of them are outside, except for, the occasional hatchling or one that's being rehabbed. Yeah. The little guy that I talked about that I'm giving shots to right now is in my house, actually, currently, because he has cracks in his shell and we don't want flies getting in there and, all that kind of stuff. So we got to keep him in a very sterile environment. So he's staying in my house. And a lot of my fosters will do that too. Some of them do some of the rehab for us as well. But otherwise, we have some huge pens. We've got a couple of my fosters that have pens that are like 1,000 square feet each. So they take the biggest sulcatas we get in. And I've got a few locations that have some big ones like that. And then we have some down to 33 square feet. And that's just the like box turtles and small Russians and things like that. That's the smallest pen that I let any of us or foster have. And then like I said, the little enclosures indoors for our hatchlings. And but it's a lot of enclosures, a lot of grass, mine are mostly cinder blocks, just because that's how I got started, was with cinder blocks. So mine are mostly cinder blocks. But it's different at all our foster homes and locations. A lot of them use wood, some of them use hog panel, things like that. But it also depends on what species they can take and we can take. So some of my, smaller ones that can only take smaller animals just have wood enclosures, but lots of grass. And the reason we insist on the large size is so that we don't feed them grocery store greens. We can feed them grass and cactus and the things that grow in their environment that are healthy for them to eat. So we encourage that kind of stuff to be in all of our enclosures. My enclosures outside have hibiscus and fountain grass and muley grass and fescue grass, the regular field grass that's growing around, and cactus in every single enclosure. And so, and we have to replace a lot of plants regularly because that is what we're feeding them, but we understand that's their food. So I'm still not buying grocery store stuff. I'm feeding them what's better for them, so it's even better. And it gets to where I'm having to pay some, but it's not as expensive as grocery store food. So it's cool.
Yeah, that would be a lot of lettuce, a lot of greens, a lot of.
Yeah.
I have found. So we'll go back to this. You said cinder block. Are you doing, I guess, 2 cinder blocks tall around? Or?
Yes, 2 cinder blocks tall for all of them. The sulcatas have 2 cinder blocks tall, and then they all have a cinder block cap around the edge too. So that adds another 2 inches.
Yeah.
So it's 2 cinder blocks plus the 16 plus 2 inches. So all of them are at least 18 inches tall.
It's the one benefit to an animal: it can't get its hand above its head. It can't get up there.
But those little Russians, they're climbers. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah. I saw a picture of one climbing a fence the other day.
It's on our Facebook page. You'll see it in a minute.
Yeah, I saw it. And that's true. I mean, they'll climb cinder block walls too, because they can get their claws in those. So we put climb prevention all over the place as well. So we've got climb prevention everywhere to keep those little Russians, those little boogers.
So I was going somewhere and I could put it.
So if you're looking for someone to be a foster, what are things that you look for to foster?
Well, what is the approval? The approval
that's different than what I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
Read words, babe.
I did. I'm reading approval.
No, that's for adoption. I'm not talking about adopting them. I'm talking about fostering them.
Gotcha.
Come on, man.
Land.
But we actually do take an application to foster. So we do actually approve those as well. So they have to put in an application. Yep. So you're both right.
Bam.
Don't encourage him. Do not encourage him.
So so we occasionally, right now, I don't have our foster page up or application for fostering up because I got as many as I can handle. Got as many places as I can deal with. But I'd love to have a couple more in the Dallas area, 1 or 2 in West Texas, because we get a lot of animals from El Paso, and they have to drive all the way to Dallas to bring a tortoise to one of my locations. That's the closest location to them. I've got one in Denver City, which is close too, but she can only take 2 animals. So you can see she would fill up in no time. So, yeah, so I'm probably going to open it back up for applications for anybody in the
specific areas.
El Paso area and Dallas area. And then, so I'll do that. But right now I've got 12 fosters.
That's so great.
And it's a little, 11 fosters, I think 11 fosters in 3 locations. So it's a little crazy, a lot to manage, to keep track of, but it's necessary. Otherwise we would be taking a third of what we take in all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
We'd have, and as it is, when we get really busy in the summer, especially in May this year, when we took in those 14, we had a wait list of 10 animals waiting for nobody. Yeah. So nobody waited more than 3 weeks to get a placement, and that was pretty good, considering we had 40 animals all the time. So
so our listener in the chat, Darren Watson, wanted to know what the process for adopting is. Specifically, what are you looking for in approval? Because obviously the aim is to not have those animals come back to you.
Right. So our entire adoption and surrender process is all on our website, but I will go over it too. And our website is texastortoiserescue.com. And but the adoption process is that you put in an adoption application on our website, and that includes that you need to know, the application will ask you some questions about feeding and care of the animal. We want to know, do you know what they're supposed to eat? Do you understand whether they're brumate or not, which is, can't think. Brain just left me.
It's kind of like hibernation.
Thank you. Hibernate. That's hibernate for reptiles. So,
right.
So do they brumate or not? What kind of food do they eat? What kind of shelter do they need? Can they withstand temperatures below 60 degrees? That kind of stuff. So those are the kinds of questions that are on the application. We need to know that you know that. And the answers are right there on our website. So it's not like we're, making it hard. We're trying to teach you. Right. No, we're not trying to trick you. We're actually trying to educate you. So if you've read the website, you just got educated on how to care for the animal that you're now applying for. You go in and put in the application. Those questions are easy. And then what we want is the proper size enclosure for the tortoise you're applying for. So, and they're all outdoor enclosures, again, unless it's a hatchling. We require outdoor enclosures for all of the species we handle, even box turtles. So for our little ones, box turtles and Russians, we require 100 square feet enclosure outside. And then the medium ones, which is usually redfoots and yellowfoots, we require 600 square feet outside. And sulcatas, we require you show us that you have or already have penned in 6,000 square feet. Because when they're an adult, if it's less than that, they're going to walk it down and eat it down to where they're living on dirt. So, if you're only got a backyard of 2, maybe even 3,000 square feet, when they're 200 pounds, they're not going to have anything to eat in that grass. They're going to walk it. They walk down half of it and then they eat the other half. And if you don't have a big enough space for them to continually walk down some of it and still have enough grass to eat, then they're going to starve, and you're going to end up feeding them a bunch of junk.
Our 40 by 50 is 2,000 square feet, in case you were wondering.
Well, I was going to say,
because I had to do the math.
I was going to say one thing I've used kind of as a good measure. If you have your pen set up and your tortoise in there, and you notice that you have no grass, it's too small. Right?
Exactly.
Ours have been in their pen for now 4 years, and it's always kept fairly short, but there's always grass. So they've always got food. So I'm like, all right, well, good. They're not out eating this pen yet. We're still good.
Right, exactly. So that's a good measure. If you see that you don't have any grass, or it's getting less and less, they're shorter and shorter, and you're not getting to, it's not replenishing fast enough, then it's time to make bigger. But what we require of an adopter is that they show us that they have that space. And so if they're adopting one that's 6 inches, then it's okay for them to have a 300, 600 square foot enclosure for now. But then they've got to show us that they've got the 6,000 square feet out there also.
Eventually. That's awesome.
And if they can already have it fenced in and ready for a big guy, then fabulous, even better. But we, at the very least, we want them to tell us what kind of fencing are you going to put up. If they say chain link, nope, that's not going to happen. So,
it's going to be a garage door. They're just going to walk right through it.
So out of curiosity, do you require them to have a plan for the animal if something happens to them?
Yeah, we used to require that they actually tell us what that is and that kind of stuff. But no, we just say, make sure you have a plan. Okay. And that is a question on the adoption page is, do you realize this animal will outlive you?
Yes.
So what is your plan? I mean, it doesn't say what is your plan. Do you know that? And do you have a plan going forward with this animal? And they just answer yes or no. So,
okay.
Well, and so, and we'll talk about species and stuff in a second, but we focus on sulcatas just because for people who don't know that may not realize it, sulcatas, also known as the African spur-thigh tortoise, is probably the number one most common tortoise in the pet trade. Yep. It shouldn't be, and that doesn't mean they're a bad pet. They are an amazing pet in the right situation, right? You wouldn't go out and go, you know what? I'd love to get an elephant for my small backyard, right?
Exactly.
It's a horrible place to put an elephant. That doesn't make elephants bad. That means your backyard is not the place for it. And unfortunately, sulcatas are cheap and they are adorable as babies.
Yeah, they really are.
But if you are honestly thinking about getting a sulcata, if you said, I really want a big tortoise, adopt one. You're not, look, I know everyone wants, it's a lot like humans. Everyone wants the baby when they adopt one or when they get one, they want to watch it grow. You are not going to miss out on these amazing things by not getting a baby, right? You get an adult, they've got a personality. You'll learn it. It's great. They'll be super entertaining. And like we said, it's so much easier to take care of an adult.
They're already established.
If you've got the space, just do it.
Absolutely.
And
we do sometimes get hatchlings. So if that person is out there who's like, no, I really, really, really want the baby and I'm okay with the work that it's going to take and all that kind of stuff, great, then still adopt because they come into us too. But absolutely, the bigger ones are easier. Plus, if you get the tiny, tiny baby, there's 3 generations of your family that have to take care of that critter. If you adopt them when they're 60 years old, maybe only 2 generations are going to have to take care of that critter. So, thinking about that way too, that the bigger they are, the older they are, it's less care for you ongoing.
And if you get the big adult, you become the really cool person in the neighborhood.
Oh my gosh.
Our house sits on our house, we don't even live in it anymore, but it sits on 2 lots.
We still own that house.
And it's like I said, it's chain link on the outside. So you can see into our yard and all the time neighbors, like if someone's visiting a neighbor, like a family member, they'll bring them over to the side of our fence to show them the big tortoises roaming around the backyard.
I actually had an old coworker text me about a week ago and she was like, hey, are the tortoises in Texas yet? Or are they still at your mom's house in Louisiana? Because my parents live in that house now. I'm like, no, they're still there. I was like, nobody's at home this week, but if you want to take somebody by, you know what to do. So she's like, okay, we have some friends in town. And so they went by to see the tortoises.
Yeah.
We've had someone once go, my mom drove through a neighborhood the other day and she said she saw 2 giant tortoises. Like, what neighborhood was it? And she said, like, yeah, that was our house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's us.
So you become the cool neighbor with giant tortoises. Yes. Right. I like I said, I've got, how many sulcatas do I have? I've got them spread out in a couple different places. I've got 4 because I only seem to get males. So 2 smaller ones are at a friend's house right now as they grow up to be able to withstand the other guys being jerks. That's another problem with tortoises is they're assholes. I'm just telling everybody, males and other males are assholes. It's just going to happen. They like to fight. It's what they do. People always like, what do you do when they fight? I was like, they fight. I let them fight and then they stop and they go on. Now, don't get me wrong. I've seen horror stories and you've probably seen some too, where they can cause serious damage. So you have to be very careful. I did have a smaller male and female in my pen at one point, and they had to get moved to a friend. So then they had lived together for a while. Like it can come out of nowhere, folks. Like they had been together for years, and then just one short period of time, they're like, you know what, we're going to run over these guys for a while, and they did, and they caused them a little bit of damage, and they're fine now. But it's not a hey, let me go ahead and get 20 tortoises and put them in my backyard. It's not
right. And they don't do well in pairs. They do better when they're in a big creep. a creep is a big group of group of tortoises. So they do better if they're in a large group, but who has the space for 20 tortoises, right? So we don't adopt out multiple tortoises to one enclosure because we have, like you said, seen the nightmares that come in. We've taken in the tortoise that got almost killed by his friend, his two males together. One had been bullied so much and beaten on so much by the other. He had scraped his neck really bad and it got infected, and it kept re-scraping and re-scraping. We think what happened was he initially got bit by the other, and then that got infected. And then every time he tried to pull it in because it was already swollen and infected, he ripped it on his gular scutes, which are the parts right under his neck of the shell. Yeah. And he kept ripping it open and getting it more and more infected. And so when he finally came to us, it was a huge cyst under his neck. He couldn't even pull his head in. Oh. And so we did surgery on him and got it cleaned up, or the vet did. Obviously I didn't. The vet did surgery, got it all cleaned up, and he died that night. It was like, he just couldn't fight anymore. And he had already stopped eating 2 weeks ago is actually why they surrendered him. And the little guy I showed you in the picture a while ago with the bad pyramiding, the really soft shell, he's actually a victim of bullying from a cage mate as well. They were hatchling mates. They grew up together, 7 years together. The other one, they both came to us, surrendered to us after a while. But they were both 7 years old. The other one looked beautiful, big, round, and actually was heavy and big for his age, for her age. Actually, she's female. This one's a male. And you saw what he looked like. He's small. Yeah. He was no more than 7 inches. The other one was 14 inches and weighed 25 pounds. This little guy weighed 7 pounds when he came to us. Jeez. Like I said, they were hatchling mates. So because we've seen the nightmares that can happen, we won't adopt to a one enclosure because you never know. Like some of them can get along with each other and don't have a problem. Others can absolutely not. And one will kill the other. And we can't, because we're a rescue, we can't take that chance. We're like, we have to put them in the absolute best situation. And we can't take a chance on putting them in a situation where it's going to be harmful to them. So we won't do it. We know some people can do it successfully. We know it happens. But we just can't be the ones that do that.
Well, and for anybody listening, the scutes she talks about, that they're a projection of the shell that comes out from underneath the chin. And on some sulcatas, it gets big. Kind of picture like if you've ever seen when we talk about like warthogs and they have those huge tusks sticking out of their mouth. Yeah. It's like the tortoise equivalent to that.
Yep.
And they will use them to flip each other. But I have seen horror stories where some of them with these massive projections, luckily none of mine have grown that big, but I've seen where, if you ever look at a tortoise, there's soft tissue on the side of the neck, between the neck and the legs. And there are horror stories of tortoises fighting and not trying to kill each other, but they just stab straight through that. Because when they decide to go through something, they're going through it.
Yeah, you're not stopping them.
So, and it gets bad.
And like I said, there's people who have happily raised multiple together, for a long time and not had a problem with it. But we're just not willing to take that chance on one that we had responsibility for. So we're like, no, their life is in our hands, and we're not going to put them in that kind of situation.
Our two big ones that live together are males, and we have one male that is quite bigger than the other one. So I kind of cheer for the little guy every now and then when he wins a fight. And we've had neighbors that call and go, "Hey, Notch or Speedy's flipped over again." I'm like, "Okay." And I go out there and I flip them back over. And sorry, in our chat, Chris Dieter, who owns Crocodile Counter.
No,
Chris, she does not own Komodo dragons. That's just you. Although Chris Dieter at his zoo, he does have, I don't know how many sulcatas, but it is a ridiculous amount.
They're so fun.
But they are so much fun to walk around. They're like little tanks.
They are.
But it's definitely a risk. I know having my two males out there with each other, it's definitely a risk. One could hurt the other, but they're also both rescues. Like it was that, or like the one with the notch was found on the side of a road somewhere. And they've been together for a long time and they're doing good. He does have a big sulcata, like he says in the chat, that does just kind of roam the zoo.
Yeah. The last time we were there, I was like, excuse me, you're not supposed to be over here. And I was like trying to get it to turn around, and there was none of that. But I was like, okay, well, obviously Chris doesn't care. So
well, and I've worked with Aldabras and Galops, and it was funny when I worked at the zoo, and the big one, like, what do you do when he doesn't want to move? I was like, well, he doesn't move. I don't.
You walk around him.
You sit here until he moves. Like sometimes I'm there an extra hour waiting for the zoo to close when I used to have to move him inside for the winter. I'm like, because he moves on his own.
Yeah,
I used to hate those days because I'm like, I have no clue how long it's going to be till James can come and clock out because it depends on how fast Al wants to go in the
500-pound Aldabra decides it wants to sit still, it sits still. It just it does.
You can coax them with food sometimes. I do that with my sulcata when I'm like, dude, I'm not picking you up. I'm tired. Follow cucumber.
or anything red. God, so yes. Katie found out quickly she cannot go in the tortoise yard with painted toenails and flip-flops.
Yep. We tell people closed-toed shoes, no red toenail polish. No,
yes, because they will try to eat your toes.
Yep. You cannot come on a tour with flip-flops, open-toed shoes. And God forbid you come with red toenail polish and sandals. No.
Yeah, they're coming. They're coming for you. They're coming.
Yeah, it's like a strawberry, and I'm gonna chomp it.
Yes. we had Girl Scouts come over once.
I actually talked about this today at Megan's program.
And they were it was my daughter's Girl Scout troop, so we knew the girls, and they came over and they wanted to feed. So they were
second grade, so they were 8 years old.
Some carrots and got some romaine lettuce, and they were like, "All right, guys, just hold it," and they're gonna eat it, and then when it gets close, just let go, and they'll eat it. And so we're watching this one girl, and also they're like, drop it, and then she didn't drop it in time, and it got her finger. And I'm like, you're the first person I've ever seen bit by a tortoise. Like, they're not fast.
She never cried,
but
she never even like had that moment of panic. She was just like, oh, look, I'm bleeding.
It slightly broke the skin, but it showed me, I'm like, that tortoise knew when it bit down that wasn't food. It's like, I've seen them bite through a carrot, no problem. But as soon as he hit the finger, he's like, oh, that's not food.
Her mom was so funny. She was like, she just like totally zoned out. And I said she was very enamored by feeding this tortoise, but she probably had 7 adults yelling at her. And even the other girls had stopped what they were doing to turn and see what was happening. And she just zoned out. Yep.
And they can break a finger off. I mean, you know, they're strong enough to do it. Yes, you're right. Usually they will stop because they're like, wait, that's not right. You know, but if they're like going at the food, like crazy voracious eating, they may not stop. So I always do like y'all say, you know, feed them till it's several inches from your hand and drop it.
Yeah. And that's what everybody had. That's what she had even been doing the same thing too. It was just so.
Only person I've ever known to get bit by a tortoise.
Yeah.
Like
her camp name was because that particular tortoise, his name was Speedy. And so all the girls were like, oh, well, that is your camp name now. And that is what they called her for the next like 4 years of scouts that we did before we moved to Texas. So
cute.
So I do want to get into our question because we go through our question, then we'll be able to talk about quite a lot of other things as well. The question I asked you for questions and you sent me, it was great. You sent me a whole list.
Oh my gosh. I've never heard him so excited about a listener sending questions before.
Well, and
he was like, look at all these cool questions I got. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I kind of pieced it together into one post. And so the question that I asked was, how do you feel about tortoises as pets? What do you think about the species available in the hobby? Give pros and cons. And I mean, it was kind of a targeted question. I kind of knew what I was going to get, especially with our listeners, and most of our listeners.
After 218 episodes, we kind of have an idea of how the consistent ones are. And
a lot of our listeners are real reptile people. So they understand it. So I would like to go through them, talk about them, and then go through them, and then we can stop and talk about some, and then we'll kind of talk about the pet trade, the pet hobby part of this, because that's really what is keeping your rescue going. Is there's this whole hobby that's feeding the rescue, unfortunately. So let me go through some of the answers. Tyson Dallas says he likes the idea. I would like to try my hand at a small species once we get our house and farm completed. A box turtle might be cool too. I do want to talk about box turtles a little bit because I think they're amazing.
They are.
David Kelly said tortoises make fine captives. I solely depends on what you can provide. Living in an apartment, a pancake or an Egyptian tortoise is for you. You could do a good setup there. If you had to, a suburban backyard on hot summers, cold winters, most Mediterranean testudo. So for anybody listening, that's Greeks, Russians. If you go to PetSmart and buy a tortoise, it's one of those.
Mm-hmm.
If you have acres of land in Arizona or Texas or Louisiana, it still works. Mm-hmm. It said Hermans, Russians, up to Aldabras, Galops. If you can afford them, have fun.
Have fun with that.
Yeah. I would love, look, between the two, if anybody's, I've said it before, Aldabras to me are better than Galops. There's a personality thing with Aldabras that just
You also worked with a really cool one at the
No,
zoo, though.
it's a constant thing. Galops are just not as
So you're
personable.
not biased because of him?
No, a lot of folks that work with big tortoises realize that galops are not as personable as Aldabras.
Yeah. Aldabras seem to like people. I
Yes.
agree.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
My daughter is at summer camp right now, which we'll actually talk about later because I do want to talk about that camp. But she's actually texting me and telling me about her day. So I do apologize. For those of you watching.
They dissected a turtle today.
Yeah.
Oddly enough. Dissected
she's at a Texas A&M Galveston Sea Camp for the week.
Oh.
and they dissected a radiator slider.
Oh.
As a biology teacher, I was like, that's really cool. Like,
yeah,
I get it. It sucks.
And
the
then
dead
they did
turtle.
a shark this afternoon, and then they've gone out on a boat to see dolphins. And
her
anyway,
turtle was her turtle had eggs.
Yeah,
I've never had a dissected animal with eggs or babies or anything. So
she's 13, so she doesn't text often. So when she does, I'm like, let's respond and get all the information we can.
Yeah, teenagers. Yes.
Charlie McKay says he has a Russian and loves them, but I think most normal people cannot handle larger species such as sulcatas, which is why we keep bringing them up because unfortunately they're very common.
Yeah, and they think they can, and then they get them and go, oh, maybe not.
It's one of those, they buy it as a baby. And even if you tell them all the things they need, by the time it gets that big, I'll have everything ready. No, you won't. You don't understand how fast they can grow, and you don't understand what it. Anyways, it's a soapbox and get on later.
That's why we insist on saying you got to have it right now. I don't care if you're planning on moving in 3 years. You have to show me you have it right now, or you're not getting one of these guys. Sorry.
Yes. Our buddy Aaron King from Pet Den said he's been keeping tortoises for a while. They're fascinating animals, but once they are adults, I personally don't think they make good pets for indoors, whether they're kept in a vivarium or a table, which we've agreed on. When their hard shells make contact with wood or glass, it makes an awful noise. It does. Ours every now and then. We have redfoots in a tortoise table, and when they get to go and they go, well, we used to have a sulcata in there, and then we had to send him off to our friend back in Louisiana because
he finally got big enough,
and he was just.
I will say this though, I don't think the redfoots are a fan of me crafting and sewing late at night because normally they're asleep. And the last 2 nights that I've been up here, because it's summer, so my schedule's completely off. So I'll do all my sewing and quilting between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. And they've been very active during that time because I have the overhead light on, and I don't think they like it very much.
Probably not.
Yeah, they're not loving you.
They're really not, because they're much more active and moving, and they run into the sides, and they're
what's what Aaron's saying?
Kind of throwing fits.
Aaron's saying that they don't most horses don't like having a perimeter, and you will if you have a tortoise. A lot of times you tend to see a walk down perimeter around the fence because they will walk that because if there is a way to get out,
they're gonna find it.
They will find it.
Yes. And they will constantly test it no matter how many years they've been in it.
Yes. And I need people to understand, so for someone that's owned I don't want to shit on some animals, but I'm going to bearded dragons or a ball python. You're like, this thing's not that smart. It's kind of not. Tortoises are way smarter than you think.
Yes.
There's a lot of thought process going on in tortoises. They may not look it just because they have this goofy smiling face on them and they're just walking around.
They're a little derpy sometimes. It's okay.
But they are smart and they will remember things. If they got out once, they will do it again much faster. But he says they do better in a garden when it's summer with proper natural heat and light, which we said. So if you're living in an apartment with no access to a garden, you definitely not recommend a tortoise as a pet. Love these animals, but to be honest, they're no pushover when it comes to husbandry, which is so true. Unfortunately, with most reptiles, especially your turtles and tortoises, they're very tough, and they can live through a lot of bad. And tortoises and turtles are a shining example. I mean, there are so many red-eared sliders out there that have lived through their worst possible life they could have and not died.
Yeah.
Yep.
So our friend Tracy Stowers said, what the hell is our dog barking at?
I don't know. I'll pull up the camera because that's somebody in the front yard. It could be a neighbor. If they close their car door too loud, she's going to.
I didn't hear a doorbell. Tracy said,
there's nobody here.
Jesus Christ. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go. I just yelled at her. See if that stops her. I used to be one of those whose dream pet was a sulcata. She said, I did research. I have a plan for my guys for when they would outlive me and everything. But being in rescues and seeing how many of these guys don't make it, as keepers and breeders need to scale back on them, which is something that several people in here kept saying. And we'll talk about kind of the breeding of them.
There's kids riding up and down the street on bicycles.
Okay.
If they're loud, that's what she heard.
But she said the local groups are full of them being rehomed when they get too big at 3 or 4 years old. or she sees babies dying because they aren't cared for properly. So people get the tiny ones at expos because they're so cute. And they have no clue what.
Ridiculously inexpensive.
They're
which
way
I
too
really
cheap.
don't understand.
Way too cheap. Some of the other ones, our friend Sean, who does the Herp shows, says he wishes more people worked with Hermans, Greeks, elongateds, and Burmese, which is another thing I want to talk about a little bit because that is kind of one of my future plans. I would like to do that eventually. And then Drew Scholes, who owns the Learning Zoo just north of Houston, said sulcatas should not be bred anymore. He says there's too many of them and they're not a good species for most casual owners. Everyone needs to just chill and take the next 10 to 20 years off on breeding, which I'm not totally against. That may be one of those animals that just because we can breed it, maybe we shouldn't breed it.
Right.
And Drew says Redfoots are amazing. I think Redfoots are probably the max size the general public should be able to handle the tortoise.
Yep. And most backyards can handle a Redfoot,
Yes.
So just about any size backyard can handle that.
Again, I say this with not saying that people shouldn't own sulcatas because I love mine. And there are tons of people that can keep a sulcata. There's tons of people that can properly house a cow.
Yeah.
But not everybody can house a cow, no matter how cute you think the cow is. And I'm telling you, a sulcata, it's just a cow with a shell.
It's an elephant cow.
It is a short little
elephant cow.
It's going to poop a lot, eat a lot, and it's going to take space.
And as a rescue, of course, I'm going to say, they don't need to be bred anymore. Please stop. And
they lay so many eggs.
They do. And I keep in touch with a rescue in Arizona.
Is that the big one? The
Eclectary? Yeah, that one. She and I have talked on the phone a couple of times, and she goes through about 300 to 400 a year in her location. And there they are almost to the point of being an invasive species because people just release them thinking they can handle the heat. They're desert animals. So they release them there, and she's forever having to literally go rescue a tortoise who has been released out in the wild. Their wildlife rescue frequently bringing them to her because they've just been let go, and people think they can handle that. But it gets cold there, people. Yeah. It's a desert. It's not like an African desert. No.
And there's native tortoises there that need that space and all that too. Like they don't need to compete with anything else.
So they're very quickly becoming an invasive species in Arizona, and she's doing her best to say, please adopt these. There's so many of them out there. You don't need to go buy one. We've got plenty for you. Please come get them. So, but unfortunately, they, like I said, they just keep breeding them because they can make money off of them. But the more they are out there, the less money they can make off of them because everybody's like, I can get it cheaper over here and that kind of stuff because they're everywhere.
And unfortunately, so many babies die, so they just go get a new one. So Chris says they can do well in the cold. They can, especially if they can get into a burrow, if they can get out of the cold, they can make it. The one problem I have is every year it does not fail. Winter comes and someone on Facebook up north will post a video of their damn sulcata walking in the snow. And like, stop it. Your tortoise does not want to walk in the snow.
About this.
Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm like,
you're just freezing it.
Stop posting that. Do you understand that his feet do not say warm on their own?
You're like, he loves walking in the snow. I'm like, no, he's looking for heat, damn it. Like you're draining heat out of his body. They don't heat themselves. There's a certain amount of heat in there, and then it just drains out until they die if you leave them out in the snow.
Yes.
That's just one that always bothers me. So look, all right, we've talked a lot about sulcatas. I don't know if there's enough people out there that will ever listen that they're not a great pet for the general public, but it is what it is. Let's talk about, even though you get some of these into your rescue, there are some that do make great pets that the general public, if you can care for a dog or a cat, you can care for one of these, right? Yeah. I lump them into that group of testudos, the Greeks, the Russians, the Hermans. I think in general, those are probably your best. If not, I think the best is probably a box turtle. But if you want a tortoise, even though box turtles I think should be classified as tortoises, I don't care. They're very unturtled turtles.
Well, that's why we take them too, because we don't do anything aquatic, but we'll take the turtles and the box turtles and the tortoises. Yeah. Because they're all the same.
So what is the care requirements for something like a Greek or a Russian or a Hermann's? I know they're different species, but they are very similar in care and location.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And once they're adults, again, hatchling care, that I'm not even going to cover that because, Lord, we could be here till tomorrow talking about that. So, but the adults or even juveniles and up, they are very similar. And again, we always require outdoor enclosures. It's healthier for them to have natural sunlight rather than fake. You know, yes, that fake works for when they're little and you can get them going, but it's so much better for them to live outside where they can enjoy real life and grass and real sunlight.
And so heat, like real heat. There's a difference between heat underneath a heat lamp and just outside heat.
Yeah, and those heat lamps have those, have their heat is inconsistent too. So they can't get to where they're in a nice, comfortable place in the heat. It's either too hot or it's too cold most of the time with heat lamps. So natural sunlight works better. They get in a hide. They get themselves buried a little in the dirt. They're a happy little camper. But so the care for them outside, grass, because they're herbivores. They're going to eat grass. They're going to eat cactus. They're going to eat all these great plants that are out there. And there's a thing called the Tortoise Table that is that's a website and an app that you can download on your phone or go to their website. Yeah, and it's a search engine, or it's not a search engine. It's a database of plants that tell you if they're healthy or not healthy for tortoises to eat. So I use a plant identification app on my phone called Picture This. Take pictures of the plant, figure out what kind of plant it is if I don't know. And then I take that to the tortoise table and say, oh, yeah, this is something he can eat. So I'm going to leave it in there. Or this is toxic. I'm going to pull that right out. Mm-hmm. So, it just tells you. But so the care of them, if you have an outdoor enclosure, 100 square feet is good. And all of those Mediterranean tortoises do not live well together. They fight. They're notorious for fighting to the death, beheading each other. I mean, everything. So they must live by themselves. And they're happy that way. Trust me, they don't need a friend. They're perfectly happy. So 100 square feet, lots of grass, lots of plants. They like it a little overgrown. So this is the one part of your yard you don't have to mow and they'll be loving you.
So for those that don't like math, we're talking 10 foot by 10 foot.
Yep.
Which is not horrible. Like you get outside, walk 10 feet, and you'll see 10 foot by 10 foot. It's a flower bed. It's basically a decent sized flower bed. Yep. And these species do great in that area.
Yeah.
Yep. A little shade, and the shade can be the low-lying plants. So you don't even have to have a lot of trees. You can, like me, I live in the country on an old farmland where there's like diddly squat for trees. So just plant some low-lying plants like the fountain grass and stuff like that. They can hide under there. Put 2 hides in there for one Mediterranean tortoise. Nice little water dish, and water dishes for them can be the bottom of a large planter, the base of those large planters. I use pie pans all the time, or not the pan kind, the Pyrex dish kind, the glass ones. You can find them at Goodwill and things like that, resale shops for 33 cents sometimes when they're on sale, $1. I have them in all of my enclosures because they were cheap. And they're Pyrex, so hail doesn't even break them puppies,
It doesn't. And you can stick them in the dishwasher if you need to wash them. Like if you, because, sometimes with water bowls, they'll get the film on them or whatever. Yeah. If you're just like dumping the water and reusing it and you're not cleaning it between each fill. So you can just toss those in the dishwasher and you don't have to worry about them.
Yeah. I just scrub them I get a toilet brush and keep it out in the tortoise shed. I use that toilet brush and scrub them every about 3 days or so. I dump the water every 2 days and refresh and really clean it out every 3. And that's it. I mean, they live outside. And in the winter, you don't have to worry about somebody coming to take care of your animal during the winter when you go visit family for Christmas because he's bird mating. Yeah. Yay! They're easy. That I agree with you. The box turtles and Russians and Hermans and all those, they are some of the best first tortoises because they're easy in the winter. That's easy. Feeding them is easy. Box turtles, some people are like, I'd rather have the Russian because I don't want to deal with feeding them worms and boiled chicken and boiled eggs and all that. But actually, I love it. I raise my own worms. My students
love it.
Oh, yeah. I raise my own worms in an organic compost heap and pull the worms out and feed my tortoises, box turtles, and they love it. They're so happy.
Yeah. Mine love when it's a carnivorous feeding day. Versus when we give her like the vegetables and grasses and things like that. or like because we'll give her tortoise chow every now and then. But if it's a carnivorous day, the kids get so excited because I teach fourth grade. Yeah. So I have 10 and 11-year-olds in my classroom, and they all take care of my animals for me during the school year. So during the summer, I have to do it, but they do it all, and they love it. Hornworms like ooze blue goo out when you eat them, and
when you eat them.
Well, when the tortoise eats them, yeah.
Sometimes she enjoys it.
Who knows? It's probably great protein.
And when we talk about setting up one of these horses outside, don't overthink it. Like we said earlier, cinder block walls work great. Just block you off a 10 by 10 or at least an equivalent if it needs to be longer because of your space requirements, whatever. And cinder block. And you can just use some construction adhesive to attach those things and build you a little, it's like Lego. Just build you a cinder block box.
And you don't even have to attach them. My own personal box turtle enclosure is cinder block walls. And to keep them from moving and shifting and stuff like that, just with weather and all that, I filled them with dirt. And then they're, I just fill them with dirt. And that way, if I do want to reconstruct it some way, make it longer or whatever, all I got to do is pick them up, move them, and dump the dirt out. Like, and I've done that once because I wanted to make it bigger. I just decided my original thing wasn't quite big enough for me, make me happy. So I made it a little bigger, and it's, easy to do.
And check out any there's tons of things online. We can find out like the raised flower bed designs. You can kind of build something like that for them. Just make it bigger, and then plan it out with stuff that you can feed them. Like what's the tree with the flower that hibiscus. Yeah, grow hibiscus trees either in it or on the edges, and as the flowers and leaves fall off, they can have at it.
Yeah,
and it's decorative
ideas, right. And for ideas for building, we've got a whole photo album on our website of enclosure ideas, and then we've got more on our Facebook page too. So there's albums where you can just go look, and we encourage people. We're like, even if you don't adopt from us, you want to learn from us about how to care for an animal, please. We would rather have the healthy animals out there, even if you're not getting them from us.
Well, and as soon as we can get a house over here and we can get our tortoises, what I really want to start doing with my tortoises is build these, 2 cinder block tall raised flower beds and grow hibiscus in that. So they can't mess with the tree, but everything that falls off still falls off into the yard.
I have that kind of situation for my sulcata's cactus. So, they'll eat cactuses all the way to the root. I mean, it'll be gone in a day. Right. So I put a big ring around his biggest cactus, and it's probably 10 inches the ring is, so he can only eat what leans over 10 inches. As he gets bigger, I'm going to need a bigger one, but the 10 inches right now, so it keeps it growing in there, but he keeps it chopped off to that 10 inches all the time. So anything that grows above that, he eats it down. So, but at least it stays living and it keeps growing.
So Jeff in the chat also talked about for your smaller ones, you could do like those big 300-gallon stock tanks. If you have a smaller tortoise and you want to get it outside and you're afraid of raccoons, you can get one of those big stock tanks and kind of build you a cover out of like chicken wire and frame it out. It'll keep them protected, and they still get out there in the sunlight. They still get out there and they can live in the outside. Jeff wanted to know your thoughts on keeping star tortoises in the mid-Atlantic USA. Enough outdoor season, ? That's a dream species of his, star tortoises. Well, I mean, if you can afford the star tortoise, that's.
Yeah, I actually had one surrendered to us once, and
nice.
And I kept
Did you keep it?
I kept him. I kept him. He's not getting up for adoption. He's mine.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that puts a banker in your favor. That's what. That is the karma of being a rescue when you get something like that.
She's like, come on, Aldabra.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, actually, we have one of those too. Yeah, and it wasn't surrendered to us. It's actually police evidence at the moment from a police seizure. But once the court case goes through, if it goes through correctly, then I would get to keep it.
It'll be staying there.
Yeah. So yes, excitement. But that's what we call a rescue reward. Yes.
Yes.
So as far as star tortoises, we keep them in Texas really well. Where are you talking about? Where did he ask?
Like mid-Atlantic.
Jeff is up near like Maryland, Virginia.
It might be too cold for them because they are one that does not brumate. So they need that heat like sulcatas and things like that. So you wouldn't be able to keep them out there all year. And you would need, what we tend to look for is when people out of state apply to adopt, and they have, we've adopted to several people out of state, is wherever they're living, their temperature range gives the animal at least, what did I write down recently so I can remember? Yeah, we need to stick with pretty much that. At least 75% of the days are above 70 degrees for many hours of the day. And so that knocks out a lot of, states where it barely gets to 70, like for an hour of a day for 3 months or something like that. So, so that kind of keeps them from being able to adopt from us, but it keeps the animals healthier.
But that leaves open, like, again, Greeks, Russian Hermans would work great for you in that situation, because
right.
they are going to brumate and they're not taking a huge space. And
right.
it's a great one that if you have to move it inside, you could move it inside into a decent sized area for a period of time. The little blue kiddie pools are a great holding area for a tortoise for a short period of time for something that size.
Yeah, and and like I said, they can those Russians and Greeks and all that can actually tolerate a lower temperature that they go out and walk around in and aren't brumating yet. The Russians and Greeks, all of those Mediterraneans tend to start their brumation later than like box turtles, the ones that are native to the further south generally.
So my in-laws moved into our house and they're taking care of our tortoises. So for my father-in-law, it's been a learning experience how to care for tortoises. So I get text messages all the time. Like,
it's just a retired New York police officer.
So he's always like can they go out today? I'm like, all right, I pull up the weather app and I'm like, they can go out. So, but my rule is always if it's 50 degrees and sunny and they can sit out in the sun, we're good.
Yes.
Like, let them go outside, let them stretch their legs, because again, when we talk about brumating, sulcatas don't brumate. So when they're in their bunker for the winter, they're in their bunker. They're just in there. You keep them healthy, feed them. There's heat, and it's just what it has to be. But if it can get 50 degrees in their sun, let them go. Let them get out there and warm their body up in the sun.
Yeah, and my big sulcata, my personal sulcata, has a house that he can go in and out of himself. So he's got the clear plastic, like they keep in refrigerator places.
He's got black plastic flaps.
Yeah, so he's got the clear plastic, so he can actually look out of it and all that kind of stuff. And when it's warm, he'll come out on his own. If it's really cold at night, sometimes I will close his door. He's got a wooden door.
I was just about to ask you about that, because ours are kind of dumb sometimes, and they'll just go out anyways. And I'm like, it's too cold for you.
If it's 50 or below at night, I go out and I close the door off, and we got, if it's going to be for a period of time, we ratchet. So like normally I close it and I just put cinder blocks up against it, and they don't push to go out. They're like, it's cold. We're good. But if it's for a long period of time, I'm going to have to do it for a week or 2 or 3 or 4. We just ratchet strap that over the door, and they're in their bunker for a while. Yeah. And then they come out and have a party.
Yep. My big guy has like a regular dog house that we insulated. We took a dog house that we got for free off Marketplace, and we insulated it and put a floor in it, and we put an insulated door on it and built an insulated door for it. And if it's too cold and going to be too cold for them to come out, we just have a latch, like you would on a farm door or something. So we just latch it closed, and he stays in there. And then when it's going to be cold, but he can come out when he's ready, I don't latch it. I just close it, and he knows to just push it open. So he pushes it open in the morning and walks on out, or whenever it's warm enough, walks on out. And then in the summer, when it's like this, I don't ever close it. I just leave it open, and his flaps keep it the right temperature. So he just comes and goes on his own, and I don't have to do anything about watching the temperature. But I do for the rescues, because all the guest ones don't have their own built house. We have a heated shed that we've insulated and run electricity to. And then we literally have to go pick them up, bring them inside. They stay in the heated shed. And then like you, it's warm enough today. Y'all are all going out. It's nice and sunny, 50 degrees. Everybody outside.
So Darren in the chat wanted to know if you have any employees or volunteers that help with the workload. And I know earlier we talked about your volunteers that do fostering in different areas across the state. But at your location where you are, I know you said you're retired. So is it just you? Does your husband help out at all? Is it like a family thing? How does that work?
It is a family thing, and nobody is an employee. We are all volunteers. The whole organization is all volunteers. So I volunteered originally to volunteer and help with the rescue, and 2 years later got handed the rescue from the founder of the rescue. So so I started running it myself, and my husband definitely helps. I could not do this without him and my son. I have a 19-year-old son that lives with us while he's going to college, and he is a significant help. In fact, he's studying to be a vet tech, and he's learned a lot of stuff working with the tortoises, because like I said, we do a lot of rehab. So he does a lot of the shots with me. He does tube feeding and IV fluids and all that kind of stuff, because our vet sends us home with the stuff and says, here's how you do it. And that's what we do. So yeah, it's all volunteers, but yes, I have my husband and my son who help here, nieces and nephews who will come over and help if they're not here, or if I'm not here. Then we've got family. We live on a big old farm with all my family, so they come over and help whenever needed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And most of the fosters, it's a family thing, and all of our fosters are at their private homes. So all of our locations are private homes. We don't have a brick and mortar place. It is everybody's home, and it's their yard, their farm. The three of us that have the majority of the animals are farms. So we all live in the country, and we all farms.
And like Chris said in the chat, because he's got all those cicadas too, he says if the sun is bright, cold or not, they won't out, and they do. Yeah. Now, if you live up north and it's covered in ice and snow, don't put your damn tortoise in the ice and snow. Drives me nuts still. But yeah, you get them out there, they will heat up, and then they'll take themselves back to bed.
Yeah. Just for like half an hour.
Yeah.
They're like, walk around for a minute, just enough to go poop, or just enough to build up a poop, go back in the house, and then poop. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's important for those species that don't brumate to be able to get out there and do that. And especially if you're an owner, you've got to take advantage of every second you can to let them out, because look around here, we may have 3-4 weeks where we can't get them outside, where one day it's just going to rain all day and we can't get them outside. It's going to rain and be 50 degrees. And I can't get them outside in that because they can never warm up in that. Right. Or it's just going to be straight cold and windy for a week at a time. So if you get one day in there, you're like, yes, go outside, enjoy the sun.
Right.
And then back inside.
Kind of like with people, we do the same thing with the kids in elementary school. Like, we have one decent day of recess. Everybody bring a jacket. We're going outside no matter how cold it is. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or in Texas, it's let's everybody go outside. It's below 90. Yay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But so as a rescue, it's got to be difficult for you because you know how great some of these animals are as pets, right? But then you also have to tell people sometimes that they're great. They just may not be great for you. It's maybe you want a hamster.
Nobody should own a hamster. Let's just be real for a minute.
But so of all the, so I guess you're kind of like me though. Your cutoff for the general public really would be somewhere around redfoot, right? Redfoot is probably as big, and you're still talking about plenty of space for a redfoot tortoise, right? You said how much for?
Yeah, 600 square feet.
600 square feet. Some
not that big. Yeah. I mean, it's plenty big for them, but
20 by 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So but yeah, it's why our founder really set a very strict adoption process and very strict regulations on our adoption process because of that. Because not everybody's set up for a sulcata. Not everybody can do a sulcata, and you got to know what you're doing with the others too, or you can make them very unhealthy. So that's why it's here. These are our rules. And if you can't meet these rules, we appreciate your interest, but maybe one of these other kind of tortoises is better for you. Or like I said, maybe a hamster. But
go get a beta.
But most of the time it's, a different tortoise is appropriate. Like a Russian, a box turtle is more appropriate for your yard. We have many people who transition a garden or one lady just recently, this used to be a vegetable garden. It's useless as a vegetable garden because I'm useless as a gardener. So I'd rather put a tortoise in there.
We're my kind of people.
Yeah.
Well,
perfect.
We were looking at a house the other day.
My kind of people.
and they had, all these planters out all around that stretch around the house. They had a wraparound porch and all these planters. Like, if you were to just build the walls up a little bit taller on these planters, these would be awesome.
Oh, it would have been amazing. It would have been so cool.
And then you just walk out, sit on your porch
and
throw grass to them and feed them.
Yep. Yeah, we get some really cool ideas, some amazing tortoise ideas, and some of them have, like you said, those planters. And and one lady had the planters, but she actually wanted the yard inside the planters for the tortoise. So I was like, cool. There's your walls of your enclosure. You
Yep.
can, and she wanted to raise the plants that they can eat in those planters and vegetables that she could feed them. And I was like, that is a great idea. So, they're creative.
And so we mentioned box turtles, and I feel we must also mention all these other tortoises are great and all. When you get to box turtles, there are some legality things that you have to take into consideration, especially for those of us in the U.S., depending on what state you're in, right? In Texas, you have to have a fishing license, right? I think then it's 6 per person per household, I think is the law.
And actually, I think you only have to have the fishing license to gather them, to take them in yourself.
I was about to say, I don't have to have one for the one I have in my classroom.
Gotcha.
Right, but you don't have to have it like to get it from a rescue, but there is still that 6 limit. So no matter what, wherever you get them,
and
there's still that limit of 6.
You can't sell or buy them in the state, right? They must be gifted to you.
Yeah, because that's how I got out.
That's how you got out.
Drew and Becca at the Learning Zoo, actually, what happens is people will pick up box turtles off the road and then bring them to them. And they're like, no, don't do that, because now we can't just go put it back, because box turtles have specific areas that are their home and they tend to stay in that area. And so what happens is when they get taken out of that area, they will just continually try to get back. And then that's when they end up dead on a road or, something happens to them. And so I had mentioned wanting a tortoise for the classroom, and they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we actually have a box turtle that we would love to give to you.
We have the most tortoisey turtle you can get.
And I was like, that sounds cool. And then because I had been doing some research on what kind of tortoise I was going to get. And so we got Alice, and I don't know if it's actually a she or not, but she's amazing. And the kids love her. I have one kid who I had for 2 years, and I don't know what he's going to do next year without her, because he looped with me from 3rd grade to 4th grade, and he'll go sit next to her cage and he'll read to her. He's the one that has taken care of her for 2 years and then trained other kids when it was their weekly job to take care of Alice. Like everybody knew, oh, you have questions? Go find Michael. Michael can tell you the answer if Miss Lewis is busy. Like, I don't know what we're going to do without him next year.
So Jeff in the chat said, as a livestock guy, he was wondering, do y'all incorporate any rotational grazing practices? We mostly do it for pasture health and pest management. I can say for our yard at our house is much larger than the tortoise yard. And I made sure that the part of the fence that opens up into their yard can actually be lifted and removed and left open. So they could come out and graze throughout the entire yard, and then we could bring them back into the pen. I imagine you've got to do something so that you have enough grass for all of that stuff.
Yeah, and for our permanent residents, we have their enclosure large enough that it's sustainable. But when we get so many rescues in, we don't always know what size they are. So our temporary enclosures are made out of cinder blocks, but not filled with dirt. So I can change the configuration as much as I need to. And yes, do a lot of the rotation of pens and things like that for different sizes and all that kind of stuff. So we will even leave one like in the farming world, we'll leave one fallow for a while on purpose. We'll leave it to let it grow back. If one has decimated it, like just recently. So we'll leave that one alone, not put anybody in it, maybe even throw some additional grass seed in there or put a couple more plants in and just let it be for however long it takes to kind of grow back. And then we'll put somebody else in there. So we do rotate the guests as much as we have to keep things alive.
Yeah. Our house before the one they're at now, they were in a much smaller pen, but we had a bigger yard. So we would take hog panels and kind of like section them off from the door into certain parts of the yard and move that around and allow them to just basically mow our yard down throughout the week and keep moving it around. You'd be amazed. Anybody out there, you'd be amazed at how much grass just a couple of sulcatas can go through in an hour or two.
Yeah. And we have adopters who will say, I don't have a 6,000 square foot pen, but I have multiple that make up that. And because I also have cows and whatever, I rotate animals. So I'm perfectly happy just rotating my sulcatas and just, and put the house in the warm heated house in the middle one so that they can always go back to it. But otherwise they have this gate open for the day and I want you to eat over here today and then go back here for nighttime because it's cold or whatever,
I can tell you the one thing you will never keep growing in your yard if you have tortoises are clovers.
No.
Oh yeah, they love that.
My God, they love clovers. And a flower pops up, they're going straight for it.
Yeah, dandelions, not a problem.
It's so much fun to go out there and hang out with your tortoises and just sit there and feed them every now and then and give them treats here. They're way more social than people think. And that's why, again, sulcatas are a wonderful pet in the right situation.
Mhm.
They are very rewarding. They are very much, again, they are a cow. They're not a dog. They're not. They are a cow.
Yes.
And they will break your ankles.
Oh,
An
yeah.
80, 90-pound tortoise, you're not stopping it by just standing in front of it. It will go through your legs and cause damage. So no matter how much you think. Also, I hate the videos that get posted on social media of a tortoise on its back and another one just ramming into its side. They're like, look at its friend trying to help it. I'm like, no, he's the reason it's flipped over.
Yeah.
He's the one that flipped him in the first place. And people are like,
he's the asshole.
So nice. I'm like, no, he was the meanie that did that in the first place. Not getting that.
That one always gets me. So it would always be funny to say funny, but when I worked at the zoo, we'd come in the next day. Since we're not there all night, we can't obviously be there to flip things back over right when it happens. So you come in the next day and you go to the tortoise yard and there's just like perfect circle and a tortoise on its back where it's just been spinning on a circle because got into a fight with another one and you had to wait to go there and flip it back over.
Yep.
Luckily, they don't even happen with the sulcatas. The Aldabras and the Glops never really fought, but sulcatas are. Jeff says, "Let's start calling male tortoises bulls." It's fitting.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And some of them are that stubborn. Some of them are really sweet and kind, and some of them are stubborn, and all of them can be stubborn no matter what. But they like I said, please follow the cucumber because I'm not picking your butt up today.
Mm-hmm. There would be times where James would be like, "Hey, just come walk through the backyard," and I would throw my flip flops on, and because I live in flip flops, and my toenails are always painted some bright, obnoxious color, and I would just go and stand, and once I had their attention, they would just follow my little toes back to their pen, like.
Yep. What is that? Yeah. Carry a hunk of watermelon with you, and there they
go. Yes, that's funny. We talk about Katie's box turtle every year. He gets pumpkin. He'll get some pumpkin, and then shortly after,
always have a pumpkin garden every year.
There's a short period of time where there's a pumpkin garden because all the seeds end up growing in her cage, and she waits until they get about 4 inches, 5 inches tall, and then she goes through and eats them all.
Demolishes it.
Yep.
Yeah, the kids this year were like, we should pull them out and transplant them, and we just never got around to it. So maybe next year, year 4, that'll be the year I do it. We'll transfer it out and try to grow a pumpkin.
Yeah, I did. I had them grow into my large compost heap, and I just let them grow. I was like, perfect. Now I'll have pumpkins to feed people. To feed all. I call them people to feed all my friends. Yeah.
It's a great dewormer for anybody out there wondering.
That's why she gets some.
Go ahead and give them a little bit of pumpkin every year. Go for anybody out there. If you have large tortoises, at the end of Halloween, go to whatever church was selling pumpkins
for their pumpkin patch
and see if they'll just give you some pumpkins to take.
Yeah.
Oh, and they usually will. Actually, even while they're selling them, they'll give you the ones that broke or are half rotten or whatever. They'll go ahead and give it. So I hit them up like every couple of weeks. I go out and say, you got broken ones? Because sometimes they even already have a farm that they have loaded on. They keep them loaded on a trailer so that the farmer comes and gets them and takes them and tosses them to his pigs because pigs love them too. So I have to go get them before all the pigs get them.
when we worked at the zoo, it was literally right around the corner on the other side of a neighborhood from a huge church that did a huge pumpkin patch every year. And that was one of the things in the education department is I would drive over once a week and we'd load a bunch of the bad pumpkins. If it had a spot on it that had gone bad, we would just cut that part out because the rest of the pumpkin's fine. But it's a pumpkin or if it's shaped weird, nobody's going to want to buy it. So they're like, all right, here, y'all take this. And they would give so many pumpkins to the zoo.
It's also very fun to grab a pumpkin or a watermelon, go into your tortoise yard and throw it up in the air and then watch it burst on the ground. Just saying.
Yeah.
Chris Peter said they get hundreds of pumpkins donated. It's just obscene how many they get. It's crazy. Yeah,
we do too. We get a lot of them donated, but I go hit the churches up and get whatever I need. So, but we have lots of donors now who know that that's what we always take in at that time of year. So they'll just message us and say, hey, are y'all ready for our pumpkins? And like, can you take our pumpkin? Like, yes. So,
awesome.
You say you also do livestock. So I'm assuming you also have hay on hand if you want to give hay to your stuff as well.
We do. We have goats, so we used to have cows, but we don't anymore. But our neighbor does. So if I really in desperate need, I go grab some from him. But yeah, I just use what my goats are eating, and it's Timothy anyway. So good.
Yeah, that's one thing people just don't understand is how much grass a lot of your tortoises. Now, if you own something like a redfoots are fun because redfoots really love protein.
Mm-hmm.
Really love protein. Like, so I give mine. I tend to give them mushrooms to give them some protein. So I'll give them mushrooms, and I've never seen something go. They'll pass up everything else that you give them to go eat all the mushrooms first, and then go back to everything else.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they also will pass up greens to eat tortoise chow.
Sometimes, yeah. We have a yellowfoot, and he's hilarious. He will not eat a worm. But if I give him things like mushrooms and occasionally crickets, especially the dried ones, he'll eat those. Yeah. But I give him an earthworm, a live earthworm. He looks at it like, "What the heck is that moving thing?"
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
See, and Alice, our box turtle in our classroom, she will toss like 3 or 4 crickets in her cage. We don't do more than that because then like they'll hide from her and then it annoys the rest of us in the room.
Yes.
But she will take all of her hides and stuff out of her enclosure. She'll get 3 or 4 crickets, and then that's like her extra exercise because she's chasing them down and hunting them down.
Yep.
And she goes out to recess with us too once it gets a certain temperature.
Like if box turtles were the size of sulcatas, they'd be horrifying.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they'd be scary.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever just watched one rip apart a pinky mouse and just eat it,
they're nuts.
Yeah.
We have huge earthworms here. Like really, 7, 8 inch earthworms, and I'll toss the huge ones in the enclosure with the box turtles, and they're devoured in just minutes and just chopped up in pieces. And I'm like, oh wow, you are just vicious.
Yeah, Chris said you can give the redfoots and stuff mice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I give mine pinkies. The problem is I have 2 in there, and I have to watch them eat the pinkies, or else one will eat its pinky really fast and then go try to eat the pinky from the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird how much. It's also the thing about sulcatas I found owning sulcatas and dogs. Sulcatas want to eat dog poop, and dogs want to eat sulcata poop. I don't know why.
Yeah.
They both enjoy each other's feces, but it was always like, stop eating the poop.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah. Our daughter had one of the 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's, and she had the little squeeze handle pooper scooper, so you don't have to like squat down.
That was her job to go through.
Her chore, even as like at 5 years old, her chore was go scoop the yard. That's your job.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Go get the loaves of tortoise poop out there.
Yeah. Just goes in the compost. Adds to my compost. My worms love it. Worms love tortoise poop.
I mean, it's all grass and stuff.
Grass.
It'd be great for them.
It's already partially, disintegrating.
And so with all this, we talked about people getting the wrong tortoise. This is when it comes to someone getting the wrong tortoise and all that. It's not, again, I want to specify, it's not the person that bought it. It's their fault partially. But as a hobby, people have got to stop just selling stuff to people because they can. Like it's got to stop. Like if you go to a show with 50 sulcatas, damn well there's not 50 people walking in that door that can house a sulcata
and that know what to do with one.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The ethical breeders. I mean, I'm all for ethical breeders. I mean, yes, I think sulcatas just need to stop being bred because there's just so damn many of them. But if you're going to buy a tortoise from a breeder, make sure it's an ethical breeder, somebody who actually vets the adopter and says, do you know how to care for this? Talk to me about how you care for this animal. Talk to me about, what kind of size of an enclosure you have, that kind of stuff. That they need to be vetting their buyers better and actually educating them. But we have people bring us sulcatas all the time that I bought this at a whatever, right? And from a breeder, and they told me just to feed it lettuce and it can live in a tank in my house.
Oh, and it only grows.
And I'm like,
to the
for
size
how many years?
It only grows to the size cage it's in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that one. Oh my gosh, love that one.
And I hear people that have been in the hobby. I don't want to call them old, but older people. And their argument is always they don't want to tell people what they can and cannot own. That's fine. I'm not going to tell someone what they can and cannot own. But if I'm breeding a sulcata to sell, I am going to tell you if you can or cannot own the animal I'm selling.
Yeah.
Like that's where it needs to go. Look, that's fine. If yes, people can own crocodiles. I think Chris Dieter will say that certain people definitely should not own crocodiles, as he owns a bunch of them.
I don't own any, and I'm going to tell you, not everybody should own them.
But yeah, not everybody should be able to walk into a show and buy a crocodile just because. And
just because it's there.
And someone selling it shouldn't go, well, he wanted it. I'm not going to tell him he can't have it. Well, you're selling it to them. Come on. You got to use some common sense here.
Yeah, ethics here, my friends. Yeah, exactly.
And if people would just take a little bit of time, and some of these sulcata breeders take a little bit of time, stop breeding all the damn sulcatas, and in that space where you have the sulcatas, you can fit 500 times the number of Greek tortoises and breed Greek tortoises and then sell those as pets. And that's one, it's going to be better for the tortoise. It's going to be better for the owner. They're not going to have to go in 3 years and go, ooh, I need to get rid of this.
Yeah. Stop gifting tortoises to people, like snakes, any of these kinds of animals.
Don't gift animals.
No.
Don't gift animals.
Exactly, because the only time it's an appropriate gift is when this person has been working to build an enclosure, wanting to learning everything they can about this animal, and they are preparing to buy one themselves or adopt one themselves or whatever.
Well,
so Jane,
that's the number one is Easter time when everybody gives someone a damn rabbit. Stop it.
Yeah.
And chicks.
Stop it. Yes.
Chicks. Yeah.
So James has wonderful friends.
I do have wonderful friends.
And they will randomly message me or call me and be like, hey, although I haven't gotten one of these phone calls in a while, which I'm not complaining about, so it doesn't need to happen. But they'll be like, hey, I need an enclosure that's this big at your house. And so then I've got to be like super sneaky about it and try to figure out like, hey, do we have any empty cages? Because I can't tell you what the hell's in that room. I have no clue what's in that room.
That is how
it's not mine.
That's how the lychee behind me came.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or it's like,
the Doomer's boa
I
in the
have
other
this
room.
animal with this cage and this enclosure, and it comes with everything it needs. Do you have space for it? Does he have time in his schedule for it? And I'm like, okay, let me see what I can figure out.
Thanks to Jeff in the chat and our buddy Travis. I'm getting a new ball python. I know people out there listening because I shit on ball pythons all the time, and I do. They're stupid pets, except this one's a pied, and I love pied ball pythons.
Yeah,
and it's going to allow me to breed banana pied ball pythons, and that's really the only ball pythons that need to exist. The rest of them go away. So somebody listening, don't judge me. Yes, I know I talk bad about ball pythons all the time, except for pies and bananas.
Yeah, we'll randomly it's funny because now we actually, and again, we are an exception to the don't gift animals rules. So I had wanted a Mexican black king snake for years. James had always wanted a redfoot tortoise, and unbeknownst to each other, he managed to, it was like our 11th or 12th anniversary.
Well, one of our friends wanted to give you one, and I was like, yes, this would be a great time to give her one.
Yeah. And then I managed to get the redfoot tortoise out from under him buying it for himself with the help of some other friends. And so I ended up giving it to him the same weekend. So we ended up giving each other animals for our anniversary. There's a difference between
gifting animals to animal people with space for animals and gifting a kid a rabbit or a sulcata because it's cute and adorable and it's little.
Yeah,
right.
We had a pair of hatchling sulcatas surrendered to us a couple months ago that were gifted to a infant and her 2-year-old brother, and the parents are like, we have an infant and a 2-year-old to take care of. I don't want to do a hatchling and 2 of them and sulcatas that are going to be huge, and we don't. She was like, thank you very much, and she called us. Can you help me out? She's like, I don't want these. I'm not doing this. She's like, I literally have an infant.
Chris Dieter said his wife once gifted him a Nile crocodile. Yeah, but you have the space, Chris. You've got an entire zoo full of Nile crocodiles, so I think it was okay.
Do I need to try at some point in the next 5 years to figure out how to get you a Chinese?
Well, it's not possible unless somebody who breeds them.
There's paperwork involved.
Wanted to have one fall off the back of a truck, Chris. I'm just saying.
Because nobody loves you and they won't put it in their bag.
No one stole one for me. It's messed up. Oh, I'd steal a Chinese alligator for y'all.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's the whole pet thing, and it's the problem for them is they're so cute when they're babies. Not the Chinese alligators, which they are. I mean the sulcatas. But we go to the shows and I see people buying. Trust me, I know when I'm saying this term, it's not true, but mini pigs, there's no such thing as a mini pig. They don't fucking exist.
Yeah.
But you see all these people buying these pigs at the show. I'm like, stop that. You're not going to want that in a year.
Yeah.
Or these baby goats. I'm like, yes, it's adorable until it's eating everything.
Oh yeah, we have goats, and that's not. Yeah,
Chris, don't tease me. I'll find a spot for a Chinese alligator. We will get rid of my daughter.
We will not get rid of Josephine
And
turn her bedroom into a Chinese alligator exhibit.
just have a Chinese alligator in there.
love it, love it.
Oh my God.
My dream animal. All right, it's going off the rails. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. If Brenda, if people wanted to reach out to you and either look at trying to help you out or donate or adopt, what's the best way to do all that?
Our website's probably the easiest, fastest, because you can contact us through that. It comes from my email. Adopting, go on there and read the requirements, put in an application, and otherwise you can email us anytime. It's contact@texastortoiserescue.com. So either one, but like I said, you can email us through the website as well. So that's probably the easiest, fastest to just remember the website, and then you can contact us through there all day long.
And I did already share the website on our discussion group on Facebook.
Good.
Thank you.
You didn't go through anything on Facebook, so just pull up the tortoise video. We can go over everything else next
What
week.
tortoise video?
The turtles climbing the fence.
Oh, hold on.
Funny video.
Let me share on the screen. Give me a second. Really shouldn't put the camera in front of the screen where I need to be able to see stuff. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So over on our discussion group this week, just a couple of funny jokes here. Max Hicks posted something from the International Herpetological Symposium. So that'd be cool. Go watch this cool talks.
Yeah,
there.
I'll have to go watch that.
Yeah. There's someone says finally a security system that really works. It's a rat snake on a doorknob. I always love when folks post a picture of a snake that's up on something weird and like, what is this? And then I'm like, it's a rat snake. It's easy. If at any point you're like, why is it up there? It's a rat snake.
So last summer, our daughter, it's 2 summers ago now, our daughter, there's a summer camp that her and I go to every summer for 2 weeks. And one of the girls at like 2 a.m. saw a snake climbing the wall. The counselors were like, you just had a bad dream. And she was like, no, I didn't. I just saw a black snake climbing the wall. And my daughter said she woke up and she goes, if it's climbing the wall, it's just a rat snake. Go back to bed. It won't hurt you.
Exactly. Go, girl.
Good job.
Go, girl.
What is up with this rabbit?
Oh, this rabbit. So traffic
crazy.
stopped. I actually watched this whole video.
Yes.
So the rabbit is trying to eat the snake. And I was like, this is a great example of why for pets you should feed frozen thawed because of this.
It's a great
right
example
here.
of what the hell is the food web in this place.
Yeah, and that was kind of the whole point was like, what is happening?
I need someone to
here? This is
explain
so
the
weird.
food chain in this location.
And why was the bunny winning? Because the rabbit 100% was winning this fight. In the middle of the
He
street.
was.
That snake did not pick that fight.
No, it did not. That's 100% was that rabbit.
Nope. Gotta pass
Nope.
that.
Nope. Can't watch that
So
again.
James, there's not a lot of stuff that bothers James, but that things with holes like that, it's one of those
Suriname
things.
toads just gross me out. I can't do it.
Yes,
can't
me
do
too.
it.
Me too. I
I
can't
can't-
watch them.
I can't
Yeah.
find the
And
video
I-
you're talking about.
It was
Our
right.
pictures.
It was right underneath that post.
No, it's not.
It was.
It was because I literally just pulled it up.
I don't know why it's not here.
So
I
maybe
looked
go
at
up to the
it.
top of your thing and make sure that you've got like all posts. Or
Yeah, I do. I remember seeing it.
Scroll to the top,
I'd-
please.
That means I gotta go past the Suriname toad again.
So go fast. Don't look.
Oh God.
Because it's literally like I have it on here and it's go up to the top
I'm at the top.
and click most relevant.
Most relevant.
Like,
As long as it's not the Suriname toad. Oh God.
no, why isn't it on your screen?
I don't know.
Because Jack posted it.
So Jack.
Yeah.
God. Jesus Christ. It's gross.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe search. I don't know. It was 14 hours ago. Like it wasn't even.
I got nothing from Sajak.
Yeah. It was like, check out
Yeah.
these escape artists. And it is literally these things. Like one of them is climbing, like you said, in between cinder blocks.
Oh yeah.
And it's
I have it
like
happen all the
wedging
time.
itself up between the.
Oh, here
there
it
it is.
Yeah, there
Here
it
it
is.
is.
And there's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of different. Like
That's
when you click on the
I think a
actual-
Greek tortoise, right? Isn't that what that is?
Yeah, that's a Greek, and the one on the top right is a Russian.
Yeah, so
and
click
looks
on
like
the
the-
picture, and it'll show you different.
And that
Yeah.
and they are amazing climbers. And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean we have cinder
Look
block
at
walls
that.
and we have
Yeah.
They're-
we have Russians do that all the time. And
Got
so we have to have
parkour going
climb-
on.
Yeah, we have climb prevention. Most of the time what I do is because I put the caps on top of the cinder block walls, I just push the cap over where there's a ledge, and that's all it takes. So it's not hard to make it, prevent them from climbing out. And on something like that, you can have the wire bend over so it makes a ledge as well.
That's just a long drop, because you know that fence is easy 2 feet tall, if not more. That's a long drop for a turtle or tortoise.
Yeah. I would. Most of ours, a friend of ours used to have the fence ones like that, and she just put the fence lip lower down so they wouldn't ever get that high and fall down.
Crazy,
goofy ass tortoises.
They are. They're crazy. They're so funny. And Russians are notorious for doing that. Any of the Mediterraneans, they're notorious. Box turtles are like, dude, what are you doing? I'm not doing that.
You know what's crazy? I've really thought about lately, once we get some space, getting into more of the tortoises, the smaller species, because I'd like to see people breed more of the smaller species. And I started looking at some of the available captive bred stuff, because whenever you go to PetSmart, you always see I forget, they always refer to it as just a testudo tortoise, and it's whatever they get in. But man, those things, and this is gonna sound bad. I don't take me wrong. They look like shit. Like
the
when
ones
you look at
in pets. The ones in the pet store.
Or or the ones on cheap tables at reptile shows that are obviously imports. They look like people need to captive, because the captive bred ones, when you look at them, they are really pretty.
Yeah, they have different colorations.
Their shells look really great, and their contrast is great. But you don't see that on a lot of these cheap ones that are for sale, because I've always been like, oh man, Russian tortoises and Herman's tortoises, they all look the same and they're not pretty because they're all just kind of tan. But that's because they're all the imports and the shells are beat to hell and back. And
but actually, if you get them out of that environment, put them in the sun, give them proper feed and watering, that it actually can bring out the colors in their shell more. So if it's not damage, if it's not stuff like scratches and things like that, the color actually starts to show up more. I guess the nutrition in their bodies and everything just kind of better feeds the shell, because the shell has blood circulation to it and all that kind of stuff. So when you're feeding them, that is going to heal things from the inside and makes it just look much more beautiful.
You can ignore that. You can read it later.
Okay. All right. So let's wrap it up. Everybody, thanks for listening. Brenda, if you'll hang around for a second after we go.
Yeah, this was awesome.
It was great. It was.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Completely enjoyed it. Please do come see our website. Even if you're just interested in tortoises, want to learn about them, our Facebook page. We have a Facebook page too. Same title, Central Texas Tortoise Rescue. And we have lots of information on both places. We try to educate the public about keeping their tortoises safely and healthy, just as much as we're trying to adopt them out. So we want you to, do a good job of taking care of them, not just adopting from us. Yes, we want you to adopt 40 tortoises right now, but but we also want you to just take good care of them when you have them.
Yeah, and if anybody's thinking about getting a sulcata, please adopt a sulcata. Don't buy one. Stop buying them. You're not missing anything out on them being a baby. Like, I get it. They're cute. They're adorable. And you want to see them, I don't know, squish a tomato on their face.
If anything, it's 100% easier once they're out of the hatchling phase and they're already established. So,
but
and
I've
so
taken,
much fun.
Yeah. And I've taken in several that were adults already, and it's still fun. Like, it's still, you're not missing anything, and you get to help this tortoise. And so, again, if you can't properly house a sulcata, please look at the other options. There's so many other options for tortoises that people don't talk about, and go find one. If you can afford a pancake, because pancake tortoises have gotten ridiculously expensive, go get a pancake tortoise. That's an awesome little tortoise that you can house in inside your house and be fine. And
they're so cool.
I love pancake tortoises. Redfoots aren't expensive and they're adoptable. We now keep multiple redfoots throughout the year. I mean, we used to only get like one redfoot a year or whatever. No, we've had like 10 this year. So we're getting plenty of those too. So check for adoption before you go buying.
Leopard tortoises are a decent sized tortoise that you could also do in your yard.
They're cool. They're very cool.
I like those a lot.
They're a fun one.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So there's go to Morph Market, look at the tortoise stuff and stay away from sulcatas and see what else there is out there. If you've wanted a tortoise, they're great. Or if you're in an area where you can get a box turtle, they're a really cool pet. A box turtle is so cool. They learn people. They'll come eat out of your hand. They're super sociable.
Yep.
So help out a rescue. Check out a rescue. Help them. Just sounds bad, but help them not exist anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Help them get rid of everything. It'll be great.
Yeah, I could actually live like a retired person if you would do that.
Yeah, because that's got to be just take out your. It's so much just to go wheelbarrow to get all the poop, so you can get the poop out of there, and just so much poop. We'll be back next week with someone. I haven't figured that one out yet. Check out our Discord. Go check out our Patreon, please. $2 a month, just $1 a month. I don't care, just enough to pay for this. It'd be great.
Get me off his back. That's
get her
what
off
he
my
wants
back.
to say.
Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Herbst Reptile Shows. Don't forget to check out Lil's Shop of Horrors. Our friends over at Reddy's Rainforest. I'm technically not a sponsor, but still go buy their bug food. It's amazing bug food.
Gumbo 22.
Code Gumbo 22 at VivTech to save on your LED UVB bulb. So when you buy that baby tortoise that you shouldn't have bought, you can get a great LED UVB light bulb that will last you years, and your tortoises will love it. So go check that out at VivTech Products. Code Gumbo 22, save 15%. We'll be back next week. Thank y'all for listening. Brenda, hang out. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.